intermittent fasting. Harmful? Good for you? Will you lose weight? This is our discussion today on Healthy Harmony. Welcome to Healthy Harmony, where we help you clarify and discuss health tactics to harmonize your life. I'm your host and health coach, Jennifer Pickett, and today my guest is Heath Gallimore. Heath is 41 years old and he is from Melissa, Texas. He's been married to his wife, Stacy, for 22 years, and they have 3 sons that age and range from 22 to age 17. He studied computer science at Texas A&M University and has a bachelor's degree in computer science from UT Dallas. Heath has been working as a software engineer for Texas Instruments for 16 years. He's very active in his church, serving as an elder, and his main interests are sailing, exercise, teaching, and studying theology. He spends most of his free time reading. So here's what's really cool about that. Heath has had some health setbacks, and he put that strength to good use and did a lot of reading and studying. So I'm excited to hear about Heath's journey today. Heath is a dear friend of mine. Heath, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Jennifer. I'm glad to be sharing.
I'm really excited about this. I interview health experts, but I think what's most powerful is when we have discussions with individuals and we're like, okay, what did you experience? What did you learn? And how are you your own best advocate? So we're talking about a big, huge subject today, intermittent fasting. I'm curious, what frustrations have you experienced on your health journey?
Well, a lot, actually. I started really being concerned about my weight and health kind of in my late 20s. I got married early in life, and so I had a lot of stresses early on with kids and even in my mid-20s, gaining weight and things like that. And so by the time I was about 27, I had already, put on a lot of extra weight from the time I had been married. And I guess it just continued to kind of steamroll on me until I was, mid-30s. I was, easily 25 pounds overweight all the time. And it was just, it was miserable. And probably about 7 years ago is when I really kind of set out to figure out how to lose weight and keep it off. And
so let me stop you there. You knew you were carrying around some extra weight, but what effect did that have on your everyday life? How did that make you feel from a physical health perspective?
Yeah. Well, it feels really miserable. You have, problems sleeping and just problems, you get winded walking upstairs, and, it had just numerous effects. 25 pounds wasn't the worst that it had been. I had gotten up to as much as 45 pounds overweight. And that, when you get that much overweight, just things you would never even think about. Like, for one, my face had gotten so big that my eyelashes had started to turn in and scratch my eyes. And that's like,
my goodness,
things like that you never hear about. You don't even know, but that's that's just a byproduct of being overweight all the time. Is just little things, they start to add up. It's like death by 1,000 cuts, and it's just really frustrating. None of your clothes fit, and you're always having to, just make excuses for things, and you don't feel good about yourself at all. I mean, every time you look in the mirror, it's just like I just feel like a failure.
Oh, goodness. So tell me, did that have an effect on your performance at work as an engineer?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you don't feel confident, when you're trying to speak to people that you don't know, or, give a presentation, or when you're traveling, and I think it really shows, when you walk in a room with people and you feel shame about yourself, or, people can tell that you're not confident, you don't exude confidence, and you're not smiling because you don't feel good. And I think it really does affect your performance in a lot of ways, especially in the workplace. I think it just gives people a bad vibe. But they just, they can see that things aren't going so well for you, and they just, it's not the energy you want to sort of give out to people that you're, especially when you're making first impressions.
So do you think people could sense that you were struggling?
I think so. Yeah. Especially my family. People that were close to me would always ask me, how's it going? What have you been trying lately? They could tell I was not happy. And they were honestly trying to, do their part and, spur me on. But for the most part, people just kind of, I think people that don't really, really know you well just kind of ignore it. And, you know, you get little, I don't know, little subtle hints that things aren't right, or the way that they, you might overhear somebody say something about you with it, and that just makes it worse.
Oh, goodness. So you're a software engineer for Texas Instruments. Obviously, you have to be on top of your game. I mean, this is a very mentally demanding job that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So did you find that there were certain aspects of your job that was difficult to perform? Did you notice anything? Was there like any kind of brain fog, or did you deal with any kind of lack of mental clarity? Like, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I've always, when it comes down to like the, just doing my actual job and the work part of it, not the relationships and things like that, I've always done pretty well. Just because I'm real good at sort of blocking everything else out and just focusing on one thing. But I could still see effects there. Just fatigue mostly.
Sure.
Fatigue from not getting enough sleep, or just the mental battles, the sort of mind share that is taken over by all the things that are going wrong, outside of work. This sort of weighs on you, and so that, I'm sure it took a toll on me. I don't know, I can't really quantify that.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell now that that I've made life changes and things that I definitely have more clarity when I'm solving problems, or when I'm thinking through how things should work. I'm not distracted as easily. So
That's
I think
fantastic.
Mhm.
Let me ask you about, as you were going through it, because I know this continued for some time with this extra weight,
Mhm.
how did it affect your personal relationships at home?
Well, the biggest relationship, me and my wife, she's always been super supportive of me, and been very positive towards me no matter what. She's real good about the whole, through thick and thin, and for good or, better or worse. But I think it still had an effect there, even though, obviously she cared about me and was, trying to help me wherever possible. I could tell that, it has a little, I think it detracts, it definitely takes away. There's times when you want to do things like sporadically, you want to go out to dinner or a movie or whatever. And then there's just problems. Like when you have extra weight, it's like, well, I don't have anything to wear, and I don't want to wear that. And you don't feel good. And so then that kind of feeds to the spouse, and then they're like, well, let's just not, it's just kind of, well, let's just not go do anything. And, or, it's just the things that you would normally do and not think twice about, that just small little things would
Sure.
just weigh you down,
So do you think that it really, I think some folks would look at this and say, hey, it's just some extra weight. Like, that's just part of life.
Mm.
Surely it can't affect all these areas of life, but you found something quite different, correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I think it affected me in pretty much every area. I mean, just the mental, I talked earlier about the mental battle, just the sort of being down on yourself, sort of feeling like a failure. And then there's the, physical battle, obviously, that, you're winded when you walk upstairs to, talk to your kids or tuck them in at night. And, um, you know, just even spiritual things, like you're trying to be a teacher and a, leader of people, and you don't exude confidence, and you feel like a hypocrite because you can't really control what you're eating, or how much weight you have. And it's kind of like, why are you teaching me if you if you have this big issue in your life? What's kind of, it's always that. It seems like the people who teach should have their things together and should understand some things, and be able to have self-control, for one thing. And I think people that are constantly overweight, it just tells people that they don't have self-control, even if it's, for whatever reason. That's kind of the impression that you give to people.
And I would agree with you. I think there's that prevailing thought that this is just about willpower. It's just about self-control. But it's interesting how you refer to that this truly affected all areas of your life, including your leadership at church, as you have taught. And obviously, we have been involved in the same church. I've gotten to be a part of that, and to see you on this health journey. But it's interesting to think that that this could hold you back when it comes to teaching and leading others, because you just feel like you're being a hypocrite. That's a very strong statement, but you feel like this really held you back from really being all you could be in those responsibilities.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what was it that really prompted you to investigate further? What prompted you to say, okay, enough is enough. I'm tired of struggling. And I'm tired of people looking at me and kind of judging me and thinking I don't have self-control. So I want us to explore that actually before we go any further. That whole aspect of willpower and self-control. Is there more to this? Is there more to weight loss than just exercising willpower? What do you think about that statement?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot more to it. I think, of all of the people that I know, when it comes to willpower and being sort of extreme with things, I'm pretty high up on the list. Like if I make my mind up to do something, I'm pretty much going to do it, and it's going to be very hard to talk me out of it. And so I had tried many different things. Like I said, I kind of alluded to about 7 years back, I had set out to lose weight, and I think the key thing was just, enough. I don't remember exactly what the straw was that broke the camel's back or whatever, but there was something that pushed me over to the edge where I was like, okay, I think it might have been when I was, when I finally hit like 220 on the scale, 220 pounds on the scale. And I had, gotten married at 175. And when I hit that weight and knew that I'm not going the right way, it's about to blow up in my face. I got to do something. And so, I set out to just see if I could fix it. And, I tried the Atkins diet. I tried low calorie diets. I tried eating 5-6 times a day. I tried pretty much anything I could get hold of. And
you've had all the things that are out there, all the things, right?
Yep. And, all those things, because I am just a disciplined person and, because I set out to do it and go strong and hard and all that, I had some success. And so I was able to lose weight quickly, which is always really good. If you're trying to lose weight, if you lose weight quickly, it's really good feedback and you can keep going, you get motivated. But the problem was no matter which diet I had picked or, which kind of meal plan I was on, after about 3 months, 4 months, my body would do pretty much what everybody's body does, kind of plateau out regardless of what you're doing, and then sort of slowly start gaining the weight back. And that's just it's a really hard place to be when you're not messing up, but your body's sort of like getting used to what you were doing and
definitely
going back to sort of its set point, and that is just really frustrating. And that happened to me 3 or 4 different times, and I think the last time that happened to me, probably 5 years ago, I had been on this, 5 meals a day, really restricted calorie diet, almost less than 1,200 calories a day for months. Yeah, it was the toughest thing I had ever done.
That is extreme. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super extreme, and I lost a lot of weight, but it wasn't maintainable. I mean, you can't eat like that forever. And
right.
never having a piece of birthday cake, never having a piece of pizza, never being able to celebrate with anybody was just it was a nightmare. It's just, you don't want to live like that. And so anytime you'd have a bad day or 2 bad days in a row, you set yourself back almost a month. And that is super frustrating. So that
verbalization of frustration, I've heard that from so many clients. We do have a very strong diet mentality in our culture. I'll start Monday. I'm going to do this low calorie diet, or I'm going to do this diet that my friend is doing because he or she lost weight. And then we do that thing and we start it, and then inevitably we stop it because life happens and there's a holiday or a birthday party or whatever that might be. And then the weight comes back, and it is devastating. And typically the weight invites some friends.
Yeah.
So we're packing on even more pounds than what we had previously lost. And that disheartens us to such a degree. So what made you shift from this kind of low calorie diet mentality to trying something that is a little bit controversial? So what did you try and how did you find out about it?
Yeah, great question. And I would just reiterate what you just said, is that a lot of people try this and they get down the road and then life happens and, the weight comes back. And it was exactly what I experienced. And it didn't just come back. The set point I had was about 205. And then every time I would try something new and the weight come back, it would be 5 pounds more, 10 pounds more. So, like I said, I got up to, my highest, probably 220, 225, something like that, which was easily almost 50 pounds overweight, 45, 50 pounds overweight. It's, it's pushing on obesity where you're really, getting into that place where you're talking about type 2 diabetes with your doctor and things like that. It's getting really scary. And so I think just that, along with the frustration of the multiple failures, is what I perceived them to be. Now that I look back on it, I don't really consider them failures. I consider them steps in a journey. You have to sort of experience it and fail a little bit so that you can do something else and learn.
That's interesting. So you look at failure almost as a learning experience more than anything else.
Yeah. But at the time, they were definite failures in my opinion. And, I was really frustrated. I happened to be, I was invited on a fishing trip with some friends that I go to probably every other year or every third year. And I was with a friend. We were hiking up a mountain in Colorado to do some fly fishing. And I just couldn't make it up the hill. I mean, I was really struggling. It wasn't hot that day or anything. I was just so out of shape and so overweight that I couldn't fish. And so,
I bet that was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing. And it was, we had to end up, fishing somewhere else, and where we knew where we should have been fishing, and I just couldn't get there that day. And so my friend, he's a great guy, and he saw my frustration, and we just kind of sat down. He took a minute. We just talked about it, and I could tell he had lost some weight recently, probably about 30 pounds from his normal self. And I just asked him, I was like, so what are you doing? What are you trying that's different? And he told me about this. He didn't really tell me that much, actually. He just kind of piqued my interest a little bit. He told me about this sort of 16-8 lean gains method where he was eating in this sort of 8-hour window. And I was like, that's interesting. I'd never heard of anything like that. It had piqued my interest enough to investigate. And he told me that he had read a book, this book called The Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung.
Yeah, very good book.
And he said that it had really helped him lose weight, and he was still eating kind of the foods that he wanted to eat, but he was just restricted the timing of it. And I just thought that was a totally different way to think. And so
And so what is that method called? I want to make sure that folks who are not familiar with this kind of know what this is called.
Yeah. So the 16-8 method, I think it's pretty well known as the lean gains method. I believe it's named after the guy who, coined it or, set that up. So it's a person's name, but he put that 16-8 sort of schedule together as sort of a first step into intermittent fasting, which is really, when you think about it, it's basically just skipping breakfast is the right way to interpret that. If you skip breakfast, you're not gonna eat 12 hours to 12 hours, 12 hours of eating and 12 hours of fasting like a typical person would. You're gonna extend that fasting time to about 16 hours, and you're gonna try to eat just lunch and dinner within 8 hours of time.
So it's very interesting. So I want to clarify for the folks out there, as we throw out some numbers, what we're looking at is an eating window. And so when he refers to a 16-8, that is fasting, going without anything to eat for 16 hours, and that's overnight. And we extend that, and then timing your meals to an 8-hour eating window. And so that is kind of restricting the body and only eating during that window. So I know for me as a dietitian, if you had told me, hey, Jennifer, one day you're going to be on a podcast talking about intermittent fasting and encouraging people to skip breakfast, I would have been like, no, there's no way. So let me ask you, Heath, is this scientifically sound? Like, you have a researcher brain for sure. You go with this from an engineer perspective.
Right.
So is this scientifically sound? Is it safe?
Yeah. Great question. And you hit the nail on the head there. That's the way I think. I really want to see things that are, scientific, and I want to get feedback as an engineer. That's how engineering works. You put some stimulus in, and you look for feedback, and then you adjust to get the results you want. And so, if it's not a scientific approach, I really struggle with it. Like, okay, I feel like I'm, trying something. I'm just kind of spraying in the wind, and there's no feedback, so I can't really, determine whether I'm success or failure. But something about this book, I got it immediately after I talked to my friend when I was actually I ordered it when I was on the plane on the way back. And, I looked at the first half of the book is basically going through the science of how people actually gain weight. And most of it was actually dispelling the bad science that was out there, which was really good for me because those are all the things that I had walked through. So everything.
So what would you say the bad science is?
Well, things like, just that everything's about caloric intake, calories in versus calories out, and this whole sort of eat less, move more mentality, sort of a bad model of how the body uses energy and stores energy. And it's been something that everyone has, at the time, it sort of accepted, a widely accepted model that just, quite frankly, doesn't work. And
it's been touted for literally years and years on end, this whole mentality of it's just about calories in versus calories out. All you have to do is eat less and move more.
Right.
And I think it finds people to be very frustrated because when that doesn't play out, they assume that it's just them, that everyone else is having success and it must be just them. They don't have the willpower. They don't have the motivation. And so I think we find ourselves frustrated and devastated from a health standpoint because we just continue to gain. So what was it about that book that was so appealing to you that got your attention and that then prompted you to make some changes and implement some of these strategies?
Yep. Well, first of all, that particular book, there's other books too. The Complete Guide to Fasting by Dr. Jason Fung and Jimmy Moore, which really is it's kind of a follow-up book that talks about more of the implementation of how you might do intermittent fasting. But the sort of Bible of intermittent fasting, as far as I can tell, is this obesity code book, which is really, like I said, about half the book, just the science behind why calories in, calories out doesn't work and how it's been proven over and over again that it doesn't work, but that the scientists and the government and all the people that regulate things, they're so ingrained and they've got it so, in their mind that this is the way that it works, that they just refuse to accept the science and they kind of make their own numbers up or show what they want to show. And, that's the thing about this book is, Dr. Fung he doesn't hold any punches back, and he just literally tears their science apart and just destroys it over and over again. I ended up reading the book about 4 times because there was so much information. I got the audio book. You go through it once or twice. You sort of glean what you can, but until you go through it and really study what he's talking about, there's so many key ideas. Every chapter is a key idea that is something completely new that you'd never would think was true. And so I think, spending the time and really investing in it and taking one idea at a time and really trying to figure out what does this mean? And, how was I wrong before? How can I change one thing to, just to see, let's test this. If this idea is right, then, does it work? And I think some of the things he puts in there, he gives very short examples. Like he says, I can make anybody fat. Let me inject you with insulin and you'll gain weight no matter what you eat. Or he says things like, why is there no reunion show for The Biggest Loser? There's never going to be one because everybody gets the weight back.
They regain the weight. And what I am hearing you saying is I just hear that determination that you truly threw yourself into researching this wholeheartedly. You didn't just read the book once, you read it through 4 times and then really looked at that science, because you're not a health expert. You're not a physician. You're not a nurse. You're not a dietitian or a health coach. And you're just an individual who was frustrated. But you took that proactive mentality and really dug into the research. So in your research, what did you find are the biggest benefits? What are the biggest benefits to intermittent fasting?
Well, I mean, as far as like the research is, I can't speak to much of that. I can speak to what I've experienced myself.
That would be great. Yeah, tell me what benefits you experienced from this.
Yeah, so the first thing is I can say it definitely works. I was able to lose 40 pounds. Today I've been on it for about 16 months. I've lost 40 pounds, and most of that weight was lost.
That is amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so I lost that weight, probably most of it within the first 3 months, which was typical of my weight loss endeavors in the past. But I've been able to keep it off with no issue for 16 months now. And so that by itself was enough.
That speaks volumes, right?
Right. But, that was just the beginning. So I really, once I saw that it was good for maintenance, the maintenance phase that I could never sort of solve, I sort of integrated into my life and made it sort of a life change. And, I lost so much weight that I actually lost a whole shoe size. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't ever think that could happen, but my old cowboy boots didn't fit anymore. So I had to get some new ones.
Yeah,
so
that's weight
not a
loss
half size, a whole size.
A whole size. That's weight loss on a whole nother level.
Know
you're making a lot of good when you're losing it everywhere.
Yeah, right. And so just the whole concept of feasting and fasting together, so that now I can participate without fear or shame in any kind of social event. I mean, yesterday I was at your house eating like crazy, and I know that in 2 more days I'm going to be right back to where I was on Friday with no issue, because I can just not eat for 2 days. And that's how it goes. It's hand in hand. It's sort of a balance. And so when I see things like that, when I saw things in balance and how I can still do the things that I want to have in life and still get the things that I want, it just made sense. And another thing I'll say is it's super convenient. I don't have to chop any vegetables. I don't have to pack any food. There's no containers. There's no going out of my way to stay on this plan. I've sort of moved to the extreme version of it. So now that I'm only eating basically 1 meal a day, it makes it super easy. I mean, it's the most convenient thing I've ever done. I don't have to worry about food all day. I come home and eat dinner. And because I'm only eating and preparing that 1 meal, I can really spend the time to do it right. I can eat healthy with no problem for 1 meal a day. I mean, anybody can do that. Really cook, use whole food. Not eating grab and go things are not a problem for me anymore, because I'm not trying to fill this little calorie gap, So in the past, you're eating 5 meals a day. You're either going to be chopping a lot of vegetables every morning, or you got to have grab and go food. And that, one of his key ideas is that anything that's been processed, that sort of the poison is in the processing, and that's where most of the issue is coming from. So that's been eliminated for me. I don't have to worry about processed food anymore.
And I would really agree with that statement. I think we have completely underestimated the impact of processed foods on our body. It's just so widely accepted, and so many of these processed foods are marketed as being healthy. They have these key words on there that just kind of draw us in and lead us to believe that, hey, it's fine for me. We give it to we buy it for ourselves. We give it to our children, and we're being fooled into thinking that this is okay. This is acceptable. But it's the preservatives, it's the chemicals, it's the flavor enhancers that are wrecking our health. So I love how not only are you employing the intermittent fasting, but you're also really sticking to whole foods. So what other kind of good habits have you picked up along the way that have been very beneficial to you?
Yeah. So, just lots of other things. I mean, like, because it's so convenient and because it uses so much less time for me now, I'm able to do other things with that time that I would have been eating or preparing food. I'm able to get to the gym at lunch instead of eating now. And so I've been working out maybe 3 days a week. Those workouts have been better than ever because training in a fasted state, I have more. I mean, he speaks about it in his book, and it took me a long time to really dig into that and figure out what are the benefits there. But you have a higher HGH level when you're in a fasted state. So your growth hormone is active. You're not.
HGH is human growth hormone, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, just
Yep.
wanted to clarify
Those are the
that.
things that, like these big star bodybuilders inject themselves with to gain massive amounts of muscle, but that's obviously not healthy for them because they're using synthetic hormones.
Okay.
But if your body produces it itself, there's nothing synthetic about it. Your body automatically will produce up to 5 times its normal HGH level after just 24 hours of fasting, to sort of help you maintain your muscle mass while you're not getting food from calories. And so if
Incredible.
you can take advantage of that at the gym, and you can see, gains. I mean, in those 16 months that I've been doing this and working out 3 times a day, I told you I lost about 40 pounds of fat, but I also was able to put on just a little over 9 pounds of lean mass.
That's amazing. Now, 3 times a day or 3 times a week?
3 times a week. Yeah, 3 times
we
a
were
week.
all like, wait a minute, don't you have to work?
Yeah. So it's only, I only have an hour lunch break. So it's about an hour a day, 3 days a week. And that's more muscle mass than I put on in any other diet or any other exercise routine I've ever been able to do. And I attribute it to those, to that hormone. And also just, I feel like you have a different, it's not, I'm not spending a lot of time doing cardio in my workouts. That I would say would probably be a lot harder to do if you haven't been eating carbs and you haven't got a lot of calories in your system. But just lifting and doing those things, I feel like I can train harder and more focused when I'm in a fasted state. So that's a great thing. The other benefits include, it's super cheap. If you're not eating, you're not spending money. And so
that's a very good point. Very good point. Yes.
I saved about 75% of the money I was spending on health food every week, on protein shakes and supplements. I think I was spending roughly $130 a week. Now I'm spending under $40 to feed myself.
That's a big cost savings.
Right. Yeah. It released me from sort of this food fix, is what I call it, which again is just the mind share of I don't have to think about food. It's just gone. I'm not hungry.
Do you feel that you were kind of obsessed and fixated on food?
Yeah, I think whenever I was dieting in the past, I was always thinking about, my next meal's coming up. What am I going to eat? Or did I pack my stuff? Or is this the right thing to eat? Or, there's just things, you're thinking about, well, what are we going to eat for lunch? All that's sort of gone. And I don't get the hunger pains or the, I don't even.
That was my next question. I can almost feel the listeners asking this question as we discuss this. Do you get hungry? Heath, do you get hungry?
I do get hungry. And I kind of understand what real hunger is like now because, I've mostly fast for, roughly 24 hours is my typical fast, eating one meal a day. It's 22 to 24 hours of fasting window, but occasionally, and there's various reasons why, but I'll do an extended fast. And so up to 3 days, especially if I was really rough on myself over the weekend, like I was at your house the other day, just eating, cake and having a lot of high fructose things and, just enjoying a social event and without fear and no shame, then so I might fast for 3 days after that. And so I will get hungry when it's my normal time to eat, which is about 4:30 in the afternoon is when I start to get hungry. And then I'm eating usually at 5:30 by the time I get home and have cooked whatever I'm going to cook. Or a lot of times I don't even have to cook. I'll just, I'll eat a lot of fresh food that I've picked up. I'll make a salad with various things and avocado and a lot of mixed nuts and things like that, where I don't even have to cook. And so that even makes it more convenient. But yeah, I definitely get hungry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that makes people feel a little bit better. And I do find it interesting that sometimes we can curb hunger simply by drinking some water.
Hmm.
A lot of times our body is sending out some confusing signals. We think we're so hungry, but actually we're thirsty. We're not adequately hydrated. So I know that's a little
Hmm.
trick that I use sometimes to kind
Hmm.
of get me through.
Yep.
Um, uh, I've heard you discuss before, and I think it's such a great point that we want to make on this as we kind of wrap this up is if you have done your fasting window and you're about to enter into your eating window,
Hmm.
is there something specific that you do to break that fast to kind of minimize the
Hmm.
effect on your blood sugar?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So great question. Um, I think most of what I do is related to the ideas that I got out of that book, The Obesity Code. And, one of the things that he points to is that before the obesity crisis, which happened in about 1977, 1978 is where it began. Um, the diet of the basic American was about 60% fat, about 30% protein, and only about 10% carbs. And so I try to model my meals after that. And so I'll try to hit as much fat as possible early in the eating window. So I'll hit, a full avocado, um, which is, probably 400 calories. Just almost, I don't know if it's 50% fat, but it's a great deal of fat right there.
It's
And
just a
then,
good
yeah,
healthy fat, a
yep,
good healthy fat.
that, and then a big old handful of mixed nuts, not peanuts, but cashews and hazelnuts and, true nuts. Not legumes, I guess. And so I'll hit that, which is a lot of fat. I'll be drinking water. I drink coffee throughout the day. And if I am going to skip dinner, I'll usually drink tea, like a flavored tea or something like that, just to, like you said, you want to fill up on as much liquid as possible to sort of curb the hunger. Uh, I wouldn't really call it hunger pain. It's sort of your body is telling you you're hungry, but it's not really pain. So,
Yeah.
we have we can go a lot further than we think we can on not eating. And so I'd think, it took me a while to get used to that. I didn't go into this, eating one meal a day. I had to work up to that, of course, obviously over weeks, but, yeah, so I'll hit those fats first. I do eat dairy, so I'll eat a big hunk of cheddar cheese or something. And then, after that, I'll typically make a salad with whatever fresh, I'll try to pick up fresh salad ingredients probably every other day from the grocery store. It's on the way home from work. And so I'll hit that, make a salad, throw some pieces of chicken on it, some feta, cheese, and a lot of olive oil and vinegar. So one of the other key ideas in the book is that if you want to protect yourself from an insulin spike, there's two real protectors, and that is vinegar and fiber. And so as much fiber as you can get and as much vinegar, I would say, at least a teaspoon of vinegar in your meal really help curb the spike, as much as 40% less spike the next
That's
morning.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I love like what all you've gleaned just from your own personal research. And guys, this is why I wanted you to hear from Heath, not a health expert, but just a real guy with real results who decided to be his own best health advocate and really kind of got sick and tired of being sick and tired and overweight. So took it into his own hands to do something about it and kind of ditch that diet mentality and decided to start this new idea, which is still like pretty controversial. We can ask any doctor, any other health expert, just any other health expert, and you're going to get all kinds of different opinions. But what I love most about this is that, Heath, you found what worked for you, and it has continued to work. I love the fact that you don't have that diet mentality. Cannot thank you enough for joining us today. This is such a hot topic. We could probably go on for 2 more hours, right?
For sure.
Well, I know some folks might have questions for you. They might want to reach out to you. So where can they connect with you, Heath?
So probably the best way is either Instagram or Facebook, social media. You can follow me. You can just look me up on Facebook. It's just Heath Gallimore. I'm probably the only Heath Gallimore in Melissa, Texas. I'm pretty sure you'll find me that way. Instagram, I'm Heath_man, MAN. That's, I connect with a lot of my students that way through Instagram. And then other than that, probably just email heath@ti.com. It's pretty easy.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Heath, thank you so very much. I appreciate your openness and your honesty and just providing some additional insight and education on a very interesting hot topic, this whole hot topic of intermittent fasting. Guys, also remember to subscribe to us on your favorite platform of choice. You can like us on Facebook, on Instagram at Inspire Healthy Harmony. And guess what? You can also join in the hotly debated topic in our discussion group on that Facebook group where we discuss intermittent fasting. So you can weigh in with your personal opinion. You can also check us out at inspirehealthyharmony.com. So until we meet again, I hope you have a great day. Bye, y'all.